3-minute clip.
Yeah, I should have told you that phone has got to come out of the case to fit in there with a strong arm. Good morning, everyone. Bear show from the road. It is approximately 9 a.m. Central Time. We are headed to a place to do a thing. Details don't matter. Some interesting news coming out today. The Department of Justice has an internal memo that's circulating, been allowed to be leaked in order to test the response of the general populace, general public, to the news, and the response is not great. Said internal memo that is circulating claims that Jeffrey, remember that guy Jeffrey? Last name starts with an E, ends with a Steen. Jeffrey did actually self-delete in his jail cell. He was not deleted by anyone else, that he self-deleted, and that there is no client list, that Jeffrey had no clients, that the list is a hoax and did not exist, which is interesting because there's lots of people saying that Pam Bondi said that she had the list sitting on her desk, and that that it would be released in order to, it would be released after the list was cleaned of victim names, so as not to dox anybody or bring any unnecessary harm or hardship to the individuals, the victims on that list. Now, nuance, context. My remembrance, and I could be remembering this wrong, I believe Bondi said she had the Jeffrey files on her desk, which is different than a client list. Now, I'm on the road. I haven't done a whole lot of OSINT into this morning to confirm whether or not she said files or list, but list is different than files. I definitely remember her saying she had the files. I don't recall her saying that she had the list. In any event, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who were supposed to get in there, and on day one, the FBI headquarters is going to be a museum. And Attorney General Pam Bondi, and I think we've all figured out by now that these people aren't who they say they are, but to what standard should we hold them accountable? I would say their own words. Okay. So they are now saying, this Patel, Bondi are now saying that no, there's no list, and that Jeffrey self-deleted. He was not encouraged to self-delete. Now remember, when the air quote self-deletion occurred, we were told that there was a glitch in the camera footage, and during that time that was not recorded, Jeffrey went from being alive to being unalived. However, Mr. Kash Patel has also said that nope, he's seen the footage, he watched it happen. So was there a camera glitch, or was there not a camera glitch? Or was there a camera glitch and then the saw was doctored, probably using AI, which, Google released their, their VO3, I believe it is, DUD, and it's producing content that the average human being is having a hard time telling is not AI. And so if Google has released that on the commercial market, we have to assume that capabilities like that have existed inside of the intelligence and defense industries for years, if not decades. There's a quote from a guy, I think it was in 1999, was giving a commencement speech at one of these muckety-muck universities, and he was a defense contractor. He said, words to the effect of, anything that you can imagine, we already have. That was in 1999, 26 years ago. That rag chew on the old radio. Shut up. Nobody wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I'll just turn you down. You don't have to shut up. That was rude. I apologize. So, in any event, Jeffrey, the official line that's being floated right now, and it's being floated, it was leaked intentionally in order to gauge response to the general public. The official line that's being floated right now is that Jeffrey did not self-delete, that Jeffrey did self-delete. I apologize. Jeffrey did self-delete. He was not assisted in his deletion. And there is no client list. I find that super interesting. I think that there is a client list. Whether that's in possession of the FBI or not, I don't know. And I think there's some very powerful people on that client list, which is why that list has never been released. And I think what Jeffrey was engaged in was coercion operations in order to engage in carrot or stick. You will do this thing and it'll be good for you. Suitcases, duffel bags, sacks full of cash if you do this thing, or you won't do this thing. And if you don't do this thing, then some compromising information will come out. Rabbit hole. I think that's part of why Kanye West is acting so crazy. Not that I pay a lot of attention to Kanye, but, you know, is writing songs about homosexual relationships with his cousin when he was a teenager, because if you own the information, then it can't be used against you, right? If you just own it, it's like, yep, that happened. I didn't know then what I know now. Things are terrible. I did terrible things, but I'm not that guy anymore. It's really hard for that information to be used against you. And I think Kanye was getting pressure, was getting blackmail from the system. Carrot and stick, do this thing or else. And he was like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Watch this, I'm gonna write a whole song about the thing that you were trying to blackmail me with. So at some point, it's likely, I don't know if it will happen, but at some point it's likely that we'll have full disclosure as the internet continues to mature. We get in the world of AI and quantum computing. What vested interest does AI have? You know, once Skynet goes hot and is self-sentient, what interest does Skynet have in not just airing everybody's dirty laundry? Which is interesting because Revelation, I don't know if you follow the Bible anymore. And by the way, I've noticed several Pharisees in my chats here lately and in comments who don't have nice things to say about me and don't have nice things to say about my belief in Messiah, which doesn't surprise me, because if y'all had believed in Messiah in the first place, you wouldn't have crucified him. However, by the instruction of Messiah, Matthew chapter 15, I'm told to just leave them alone. Leave you alone. And so I'm going to leave you alone. And the way that I'm leaving you alone is by blocking you, banning you, deleting you, so that you don't have a presence on my platform, rather than engaging in a little tit for tat. Back to Revelation. The apocalypse, the word apocalypse, which we tend to think of as like the destruction of all of this modern society. The word apocalypse is very much so best translated as revealing or revelation. All things come into knowing. And so it's an interesting dovetail there as far as AI and quantum computing is concerned. The robots have no vested interest in not airing people's dirty laundry. And it could be at some point that, you know, in Times Square on the big screen is somebody's deleted texts or selfies or bank records or whatever, and why would the robots care? So I think they're pulling back. I think there is a list, and I think right now that list is not being disseminated because there's people who would be embarrassed, who would lose, say, personal brand value if that list was exposed, which is why the Department of Justice, which is an oxymoron, the Department of Justice is saying, nope, Jeffrey had no list and he did self-delete. Trust us, you just need to trust us. We've seen the footage. Okay, well, the footage we were told didn't exist. So which footage have you seen? So that line is being floated this morning for public dissemination. It's going to greatly affect, I think, what's called the MAGA coalition of supporters, because Trump appointed these people, Trump co-signed these people, and that's important. The implications of that in a moment. But Trump supported these people, appointed these people, got them into office, and if they now come out and doesn't the general opinion of the general population, there will be fallout from that. Which leads us to, already there is chatter about who the 2028 GOP presidents are going to be. Who's that going to be? Trump's in his last term, constitutionally his last term. He and Bannon and others have joked about, were they joking or were they testing the response? If Trump's as good as everybody says that he is with his 4D chess, 7D chess, you don't understand, Barry. He's playing 9-dimension chess. All right, whatever. People who make that claim, he's playing 4D chess, can't spell dodecahedron, let alone explain what a dodecahedron is. And so, there's a disparity there between their belief structure and actuality. Boo, maneuvering. So with that, Trump has floated the idea of a third term or more terms, which would only feed the left's claims that he is in fact a dictator, assuming that we even live in a constitutional republic anyway, and that the laws actually matter anyway, and there's debate on that on both sides of the equation. We also just had our 240th country, and as we know from Sir John Glubb, the empire lasts approximately 250 years. That doesn't mean by next 4th of July America will be a smoldering pile of ashes, but it does mean that statistically we are in the death throes of our nation. Now, rabbit hole in the rabbit hole, you can look at the Roman Empire, for example, which is analogous to the United States of America. Look at the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire lasted for 750 years. Yes, it did, but it had 3 distinct periods of approximately 250 years each. So in either case, whether the United States of America is a smoldering pile of ashes by next 4th of July, Independence Day, or we've firmly begun the transition into America Phase 2, whatever that might look like, things are a little weird. So it begs the question as to, are we going to have 2028 GOP candidates at all? And if so, is anybody even going to vote for them? The left is trying to reclaim their hold on the center. A lot of the leadership of the left has realized that they've leaned too hard in the direction of their base, that 10% of crazy folks that have, half their head shaved and the other half is a purple mohawk, and they don't know what their pronouns are today because their prescription for psychotropic pharmaceuticals wasn't filled, and so they just feel the need to poop in a litter box today. Those people, right? And those people, and like the radical LGBTQIA plus agenda and pronouns and 87 genders and bottom surgeries for children without the approval of the parents and forced vaccinations and all that. Those people are not copacetic with the center. And so the left has realized, hey, we need to do something to restore some faith in the centrists that may consider voting for us, but won't when there's some dude with a beard calling himself Tiffany wearing a push-up bra at the gay pride parade shaking his butthole in front of children, which is incredibly reasonable to not support that, okay? Then you have Elon, who's saying, hey, we'll start the America Party and we'll go back to the Constitution, although he's also on record as having said that he believes that people who want to buy assault rifles need to go through a significant amount of, which does not square with the United States Constitution. In fact, the reason we got to celebrate the 4th of July Independence Day 3 days ago is because regular citizens had access to, air quote, military grade weapons. So I'm a constitutional literalist and a biblical literalist, which means that if you can afford an M1A2 Abrams, you should have one. If you can afford a B-2 bomber and a Moab or a MOP, of them, you should have one. If you decide you want your own floating island filled with Marine Expeditionary Units and FA-18 Hornets, you should have one. Why not? But I digress. So Elon is looking at taking the center with his America Party, and he's had a pretty nasty on-again, off-again relationship with Trump. Note that the hiccup in their relationship got smoothed over for a time, about a week, when Elon made the claim that the reason that the Jeffrey files haven't been released yet is because Trump is on them. And Trump said, words to the effect, it's very nasty, shouldn't have said that, very dirty, can't trust Elon, maybe we'll take away all of his contracts, send him back to South Africa where he came from. And then they kissed and made up for about a week. Here we are again. So that leaves the GOP. Now the GOP constitutes a portion of the air quote MAGA coalition. Who they are, the GOP, are looking at running potentially include such names as Marco Rubio, no thank you, Ted Cruz, no thank you, Kristi Noem, current Secretary of DHS, who cannot hold a rifle, and frankly, is beautiful. She's a Barbie doll, but what qualifies her for the position? Nothing. Sarah Huckabee Sanders from Arkansas, no thank you, not interested. JD Vance, well, we got the big beautiful bill pushed through, which is an omnibus bill, not a single party bill turned into law, which was one of the campaign points from Donald Trump himself. And I think we need to have single page bills. Congress should be voting on single page bills, single issue bills, turning those bills into law. Remember also, as far as regulation was concerned, that for every one new regulation or one new law that was added, a minimum of two were supposed to be deleted, okay? So the one big beautiful bill got pushed through, and on that bill, the Senate, had basically stripped short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, any other weapons and suppressors from the NFA, National Firearms Registry, National Firearms Act Registry, from the early 1900s, 1936, 1934, somewhere in there. In other words, you can buy whatever suppressor, machine gun, any weapon you want, no tax stamp, no registration, no nothing. Well, after the Senate had approved that, it then went to the House, where it got revised by the House to, nope, there's still a registry, but we'll take away the $200 from the tax stamp. And JD Vance allegedly was supposed, per chatter, rumor, was supposed to have been the voice of the gun owners in there, pushing for us to get our SBRs and our cans without having to register anything, no NFA registry. And the compromise is, generally speaking, a bad thing, especially when it comes to inalienable rights. But it's touted as, bipartisanship compromise is touted as success in Congress. And the reason for that is because we have a uniparty They all work for the same team, they just wear different uniforms. So the compromise was cans and SBRs and any other weapons, short-barreled shotguns, machine guns, whatever, military-grade weapons, are still going to be registered under the NFA, but you don't have to pay the tax stamp. It was never about the tax stamp. It was never about the 200 bucks. Am I happy to save 200 bucks? Yeah. But it was never about the tax stamp in the first place. It was about the registry. And so the registry still exists. And so as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Vance has got some egg on his face with that. So not terribly interested in supporting him for a candidate of the GOP. Not that I'm a Republican anyway. The one name that I thought was super interesting on the list is Senator Rand Paul, who I believe in 2016 had an unsuccessful bid for the presidency, but is considering throwing his name into the hat again. Now, right now, Trump is talking a lot of game about how he's going to primary Thomas Massie, because, and Massie's an interesting character. He has a lot of libertarian support, a lot of fiscal conservative support, but if you note his record, one could make the argument, and some have made the argument, that the only time Massie doesn't vote in line with the party is when it would benefit the Democratic Party. Now, maybe. A lot of people say he's controlled opposition, blah, blah, blah. Maybe, or maybe he has principles that more closely align with not the Democratic Party, but when the Democratic Party is fighting the Republicans on things like a 1,300-page omnibus bill and $3.6 trillion added to the deficit, that Massie's also against those things. I don't know. But Massie and Rand Paul are homies. And Rand Paul is more in that vein of Massie than he is the grand old party, the GOP. So I could see Rand Paul being in for a significant fight in order to get the nod from the GOP as their 2028 presidential candidate. Of all those people, Rand Paul would be the one I'd be most interested in seeing. I'm not sure that it's going to matter in 3 years. I'm not sure that it mattered last year. I'm pretty damn sure it doesn't matter in all these other presidential elections. And I think, number one, shame on me for thinking that it did matter in 2024 November. And also, I think it's part of the system used to distract us from things that actually matter. And that's wildly unpopular with a whole bunch of people who have Trump Messiah complex, but he's just a man. And we're not supposed to worship anyone. You'll get a lot of people who will say, well, I don't worship him. I'm just, I'm very thankful that he's the president. Can you imagine if Kamala was the president? Yeah, I think it would be far worse if Kamala was president. I agree with that sentiment. But when you're putting your hopes in man instead of your hopes in the Most High, we have problems. I think there's a lot of people who believe that Trump was appointed or ordained by God for the position that he is in. And I think that's dangerous language, because we can argue, and biblically, that if he occupies that seat, it's because of the will of the Most High. But I'd be careful with the word anointed, because that's literally what Christ means, the anointed one. So he's just a man, and I think that motivations are very complex, and that even if he does care about the country and he does care about the constituency, he also cares about himself and his own personal interest. And that's, for example, Trump coin. Why does the president of the United States have Trump coin? Things like that. So there's a lot of mixed messaging in not just words but also deeds when it comes to the presidency. So we'll see what happens in 2028 as far as presidential candidates from the GOP is concerned. There's talk of the Democrats running AOC, which would be mildly entertaining at best, possibly. Which brings us to our third point for today. And this is a little bit more, this is not geopolitical, but a little bit more personal. Live your life. Just live your life. In an ideal America, it should not matter near as much as it does who is the president, who are the presidential candidates, who was Jeffrey, and who were Jeffrey's friends. Now it does, unfortunately today, because we've fallen quite far from the ideals that our founding fathers documented in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. However, we still are all presented with opportunities to just live our life. Go and do whatever it is the Father requires of you. For whatever reason, and I don't know the answer to this, God does, and if you don't know the answer, you should ask Him, not me. For whatever reason, you were fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of our Creator. You were known before you were formed in the womb. You were given a tool set of giftings and talents and delights that present the opportunity for you to be the hands and feet of the Most High by the blood of Messiah. And so while all these things are very interesting when it comes to Jeffrey and his friends and potential candidates and the price of crude oil, and did you see what happened in the Straits of Hormuz, and all these other things that are happening all over the place, weather warfare, next radar modification, all these things. What are you going to do about it? That's the real question, is what are you going to do about it? And if the answer is there's nothing you can do about it, let it go. In the words of Messiah, Matthew 18, leave them alone. Let it go. That's interesting. Maybe I'll pay attention to it, but there's nothing I can do about it. Therefore, I'm not going to ascribe personal value to it. Then there's things that you can do something about. Yeah, catastrophic flooding in the Texas Hill Country. Yup. We have people right now working on that. Cool, we can do something about that. Human trafficking. I'm not going to end human trafficking. And I think it's a lofty goal for people to say that they are. They're going to end human trafficking. But every kid we rescue, every widow that is not forsaken, is one less person that's being victimized, traumatized, ritualistically, serially abused, exploited. That matters. That matters a lot to that person or to those people. I can't fix all of it, but I can do something. And so can you. And what you're supposed to do, I don't know. God does. So I would ask Him, what am I supposed to be doing? And the reason that most people don't ask that question is you'll get an answer. And you'll get an answer that's undeniable, that you can understand, because He loves us and He knows how to talk to His kiddos. He'll tell you. And once you know, and this is why people don't ask this question, once you know, you only have two options: obedience or disobedience. And disobedience to the Most High will result in a detriment to your quality of life. Let's just put it that way. You're going to catch a whooping from Dad. That's why most don't ask that question. However, if you are obedient, if you do what you're told to do, you keep your room clean, you'll get allowance. Now this sounds a lot like works-based theology. And if you're struggling with that, go read Ephesians chapter 2. Because it's by the blood of Messiah that we are a part of Israel, who's the Father's chosen people, not a nation state in the Middle East. And by grace through faith we are saved, lest any man should boast. But we are appointed to good works, which have been prepared by Elohim beforehand. And so most people will argue works from the standpoint of salvation. And our works are filthy rags. That word there's menstrual rags. Our works are menstrual rags in the eyes of the Most High. When we approach works from a standpoint of salvation, there is no salvation but by the blood of Christ. The works are for sanctification, for being set apart, for the refining of your soul, for obedience to the Most High by the blood of the Lamb. And if you want proof of that, look in the mirror. Because the Father doesn't make mistakes, He doesn't make accidents, there's no randomness to how He works. And He would not have made you if it was not for a purpose. And when you're not operating in your purpose, you're not operating in obedience. So whatever that looks like for you, live your little life without fear, without shame, without hurt. Just live your little life and rejoice in your little life that we have the opportunity to come into the throne room and be in the presence of the Most High by the blood of the Lamb. That we could have a personal relationship with the Creator of the universe and the opportunity to be His hands and His feet and His mouth on occasion. And that's not little. That's not nothing. And so it's entirely possible and likely that you will have an immeasurable kingdom impact by serving just one person with your giftings and talents and delights. And when you've helped that person, whether it's for a moment, an hour, a day, a month, a year, a lifetime, then help someone else, then help someone else, then help someone else. And while you're doing that, you're functioning as a conduit for the Spirit of the Most High. And it's not by your power and by your might that these things get done. These things get done because the Creator of the universe is flowing through you, and there are no words to describe it. It is amazing and draining and challenging and hope-filled, and it's the human experience all wrapped up into one, which is why words don't touch it. So don't be afraid of anything out there today. Don't get all spun up in a tizzy. Live your little life and live it in a way that is glorifying of the Most High, of the Word and the Word made flesh. And just sit back and be amazed at how the Father works. Go where His Spirit leads and do what you've been told to do. And it won't matter who the president is. It won't matter what your bank account looks like. If all these worldly trials, which are supposed to be counted all joy, won't matter, because you will be at one atonement with the Most High, walking in spirit and truth by the blood of the Lamb. So it's Monday. Don't get all bent out of shape. Rejoice at the opportunity to do good. Not your good or my good, the Father's good. Not your will or my will, the Father's will. Whatever comes your way, take it. Take it with a smile. Here we are. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see how the Father gets us out of this, whatever it might be. Because it's in our weakness that His strength is made manifest. It's in our lack and perceived lack that His abundance is quite obvious. When we don't know what to do, His wisdom shines forth. But that comes from walking with Him, not walking with the world. Which brings up Joshua. Choose this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve Yahuwah Elohim, the Lord, creator of the heavens and the earth. And that's probably the most important thing I have to say to you today, is do that, whatever that looks like. And do not look for external validation from man as to whether or not you are doing a good job at it. You need internal validation from the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, which dwells inside of you by the blood of Messiah. Our goal at the end of an age is not to hear from all your homies, wow, you're so cool. It's to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, from the Creator of the universe. And so, zooming all the way out, remember that context today. My opinion doesn't matter, and your opinion doesn't matter. It's Dad's opinion. Dad's will that matters. Now, myself and my brother Dud are going to be engaged in some stuff for a while, rolling down the road in the gun truck / ambulance. And so we'll see you when we see you. In the meantime, keep Grindstone in prayer. Links are in the description. If you want to pour into recovery efforts in Central Texas, you can do that. grindstoneministries.com. If you're convicted, and only if you're convicted, to forsake not the widow and the orphan, calebhouse.org, Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org. If you need some med gear, or you just got a hole burning in your pocket, refugemedical.com, refugeforlife.com, promo code BearNation gets you 10% off, and you can use code WELCOMEBACK20, WELCOMEBACK20, all one word, for 20% off, because our website was down for 4 or 5 days, and we're trying to make back. We are hoping to have restored to us the years that the locusts have taken. So, yeah, that's what we got going on. Share the show with somebody you love. Patrons, I really appreciate the support. Thank you. You are the economic engine of the Bear Nation. That is how I pay my household bills. I don't get paid from Refuge. I don't get paid from Grindstone. I don't get paid from Caleb House. It's Patreon. I certainly don't get paid from YouTube. So thank you for the support on Patreon. Link is in the description. If you can't find it, go to patreon.com, search for Bear Independent. You'll find it there. And if you're on the fence about that, I put up a video yesterday called Sheep Math for the Village, which is an excerpt from Patreon content. Go watch that, and then you can decide if the value equation is there or not. You can make an informed decision. With that, I love you guys, and I will see you when I see you. Shalom, everyone.